Hey, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're coming in from. I'm just getting the tech going. I don't know if chat's working today. I think I'm having a second day of a little bit of hiccup there, but it doesn't matter. We are going to get to our content. So if you're in the West Coast or farther out into the Pacific, good morning. And here on the East Coast, um, there you go. Okay, so now you can see. All right, thanks, Gus. If you're on the East Coast here, good afternoon. I'm looking outside. It's a great, beautiful day, and I'm excited to be able to talk about today's topic because today's topic on controlling the sub is really important to success. And so it's part of our 5-day training event on teaming and the different aspects of teaming. So before we get started, though, for those of you who are showing up early, I just wanted to say a quick tip for you that if you're not familiar with our supplier portal, I want you to go get our supplier portal. Just go to govconchamber.org and you can find it there. I think it's one that's like right on the homepage when you go to govconchamber.com. Excuse me, I don't know why I said org. govconchamber.com. And it's a supplier portal on there. The reason I'm bringing it back up today and letting you know about it is that yesterday I was doing some research with Gus, and we were trying to figure out the next post for today that really brings value to you. Long story short, we're in there looking at HHS's organization structure, and the CIO of HHS has their own supplier portal for IT companies that are looking to do business there. So it just reminded me that these things are sitting out there and sometimes they're secret, and our job in the chamber is to just shine light on those secrets. And the way we do that with supplier portals is to create the supplier portal directory and keep adding these ones in there. One ask I have for you is, anytime you see something like that, send it our way. Even if we haven't already, it's better if you get in the habit of sending us tips. So it looks like we're good to go. Let me switch back over to my screen, and I'm going to get started here. Oh, yeah. But first, I'm going to turn off this bar because I keep forgetting. I'm Neil McDonnell, president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to my daily LinkedIn Live trainings where I provide processes and procedures to teach you how to be a success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market, and since 2018, I've been teaching people just like you that government contracting is not a secret, it's just a process. And that process goes from A to Z, right? And if you follow the process steps in between, you get the outcome or the success that you're looking for from that process. Today, we're going to talk about controlling or guiding subcontracting teaming partners, so subcontractors. Before we do, though, help buyers remember who you are or know who you are. Go ahead and put your company name and core competency, 2 or 3 words in the chat so they know who you are. Others in the community know who you are, and that I know who you are, and I begin to remember more and more out there. Keep in mind, we're not just here for a training. One of the huge benefits of this daily LinkedIn Live activity that we do together is that we're building a community that is independent of me and the chamber and my peers in the chamber, my colleagues in the chamber. It's you being able to connect with people on in the chat that you look at and see that might fit for going forward. So go ahead and connect with each other, and let me dive into today's topic on how to control sub-teaming partners. We're going to go pretty fast like I always do, and I'm going to cover 3 main things. The idea of why, the top 5 reasons on why controlling your subs is vital to your success. Second thing I want to cover are the top 5 initial steps you can take, and then I'll follow up with the top 5 ongoing steps you can take. And so at the end, you'll have 15 tips that drive towards how to control or guide your subcontracting teaming partners. So when you think about problems in general, most problems stem from a lack of communication. There's a line that I love saying that the biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it took place at all, right? The biggest problem with communication is that you and I talked and we understood each other. That often doesn't happen. It's one of the reasons I like writing things down. It's like, oh, yeah, I agree. Is this what we just agreed to? And I think yesterday, the day before, in one of the trainings, I said that's the exact reason why you write meeting minutes, is to clarify that you said this and I said this, and more importantly, we agreed to this. It's not a legally binding thing. It's just a clarification tool. And so if you can address this lack of communication or poor communication, then you will begin to address a lot of the problems. So let's go into the 5 reasons controlling or guiding subcontractors is vital for our success. And by the way, as I'm going in, I'm talking about a company, and those of you who are big enough to have opportunities where you're working on, you have teams, right? You got a couple of subcontractors who are joining your team, or competimates in there. If you are not at that stage, understand what I'm telling the prime on how to control the sub, because if you're not at this stage, you're at this stage, and you can proactively help them guide you by suggesting some of the things I'm even talking about. But understand why it's valuable to them will help you become a better sub and get you ready for being a prime when you're at that stage. Okay, so the number 5 reason is it gets everybody on the same page. When you are doing a good job controlling the conversation and controlling the relationship with your sub, everybody's going to be on the same page about where you're trying to go, what you're trying to achieve. You could think about a win theme, for example. Do people understand the win theme throughout the entire capture and then proposal, obviously stages? Do they understand that, and are they able to get on board? Well, if we're not controlling and facilitating this relationship with our subs, then often people go off on their own. They'll think they know better, or they'll think they just know what we want, and that's not the case. Number 4, and I like this one on a reason for controlling and why it's great, is that no one will have to work nights or weekends. I don't know about you, but I've spent numerous years where I've had to work nights or weekends, or my team has had to work nights and weekends. And I say this very softly, but if we're working nights or weekends, it's coming from poor planning. There should be a way that we can avoid nights and weekends. Just looking at an opportunity, if the problem is in proposals and we're having to write, well, why didn't we write almost an 80% draft during capture? So that when the RFP dropped, it's just like moving forward, right? If we're getting fast turnarounds from the government where it's 3-day or even 5-day turnaround, well, why aren't we only going after opportunities that we could easily write in a normal business day, in 3 to 5 days? And that means going to our sweet spot. But when you help everybody focus and control the team to make sure we're all on the same page, et cetera, now we're going to be able to work hard, but just during the day, go home to our families, or go home, go out dancing, because I don't do that anymore, but go out and have fun, right? And on the weekends, you can have fun on the weekends. I talk sometimes about part of the process is just enjoying your weekend. So number 3, you'll eliminate most risks out there. When you think about control, it's really, and I use the word guiding, right? It's just helping everybody go in the same direction, be on the same page. But also there's all these risks that pop up. I already used one where I talk about win theme and somebody's going off in this direction, somebody else is going here. But there's very legitimate risks. For example, somebody might talk to a competitor and begin to share information about us that allows them to come in and kind of ghost us or work towards us. Somebody might talk to the government and either get the wrong information, give the wrong impression, or in some cases, I've worked on contracts where you're not allowed to at a certain stage, and they're trying to quarantine the government buyer personnel from any of us in the industry. And so communicating all this and working to control what everybody's doing will help us avoid the risk. There's all sorts of other risks that go in through capture and then in proposal writing. For example, a major risk in proposal writing, or as we pursue this RFP, is this lack of truly understanding what's going on and what's needed. If I need from a sub 2 past performances, and the whole time as a prime, I'm thinking they got it because in one casual conversation they said it, well, that's not enough for me. So when you control the relationship and when you control the meetings and all these kind of areas, you're just trying to make sure that these risks don't come up. Risks in the federal government sales cycle are pretty clear. For those of us who've been around long enough, we can look at business development, we can look at capture, and we can look at proposal and understand what risks would come up. Risk management is about avoiding those risks completely. And so if you're not controlling the whole relationship, you might be good at this, but your subs aren't. Number 2 is data calls. In this one, a great reason to control it is that the data calls will hit the mark of what you're looking for, and they'll be timely. And I'm going to talk about this more in a minute, but this idea that by the way, if you don't know what a data call is, if I'm a prime contractor and I'm going to write a proposal, then I'm going to send out data calls. I'm going to send out a request for you to send me a page about this, or to send me a past performance that you had. Write up a nice past performance narrative and send it to me. Those are data calls. Basically, anytime I ask for something, it's a data call. You might also look at it as an action item. And so when you maintain control, data calls are going to hit the mark over and over again and be timely, compared to the opposite, which is sometimes you don't get what you wanted, and we as primes have to rewrite stuff that we get, or timely, they're just so late, they're really not helpful to us. What's the point of having a team if we're not together? And I think you might be able to guess the number one reason and the value of controlling your relationships with a sub. You're going to win more contracts, right? That's at the end of the day, that's what we're talking about, is winning more contracts. And so when you control the project, or in this case, the relationship with your teaming partners, the sub teaming partners, you're going to win more opportunities because everybody's swimming in the right direction. Everybody's bringing to the table what's needed to create a winning proposal that you can then turn in as the prime. I'm going to talk about 15 tips. That was 5. I got 10 more. But at the end, I'll talk to you about how you can get a handout. So, if you're not writing this down, you can go for it. Let's talk about 5 tips or initial steps you can take to establish control with a sub teaming partner. First one is schedule recurring meetings. This is really important. If you've got a teaming partner who's coming on board, you say, hey, we're going to meet every 2 weeks for 15 minutes, right? Sometimes you might have one-off meetings that go, hey, it's an hour because it's a working session. But generally what I'm talking about here is a touch-based meeting. Every 2 weeks, we're going to meet for 15 minutes on a regular schedule. And this is one thing you can do that's just so easy to keep the team in the loop. And as you move forward, they will understand that you're serious about going after this opportunity because you're coming back and talk to them. I hear so often people say, oh, I didn't even know the prime was like going in a different direction, or the sub just went off and got on another team. It's like, because you're not managing or controlling it. And if you had a recurring meeting, you would be able to control that. So just when you establish a new teammate on a new opportunity, schedule a recurring meeting. Remember, only 15 minutes. If you ever have to stretch it beyond, you can as a one-off. But these update meetings, if you get rid of all the extra dialogue, it's about where are we right now and what do we need to do to keep moving forward. That can be done in 15 minutes. In software development, we call it a daily stand-up. Here, it's a weekly stand-up. All right, number 2, teach them your capture and proposal process, right? In a different training, I talk about how subs can ask the primes what their process is. Here, I'm saying if you want to control your subs and have them be successful on your team, teach them your capture process. Hey, this is what I expect we'll be doing over the next 6 months or whatever it is. Our normal process is to go through gate 1 and then gate 2 and then gate 3. This is what we need at this stage. This is what we need here. And this is what we need at gate 3. That should take you 5 to 15 minutes to explain your process. Frankly, it might make you better at even understanding your process if you have to teach it to somebody else. But understanding what you'll be doing at those different gates and what you need from the teammate. And then when we get into proposal, the proposal manager is going to lay out a process for you that's at this stage. When we get farther into this opportunity, I'll bring the proposal manager in and he'll or she'll lay out the process for you. But when you teach them that, you're really going to be able to control that whole relationship and guide them by just letting them know what your expectations are through your process. Okay, the next one is teach them about definition of done for action items and data calls. So definition of done is just the clarity of a task. We use this in software development. If I say, we use something called a story, not to get too technical, but in software development, I might say, as a user, I want to be able to print a report in order to brief my boss, right? So the value of that story, that feature of the software product is that I can brief my boss. What do I want it to do? I want the feature to print. That's perfect. Seems pretty straightforward. I'm going to build a functionality to print. Problem is, it's not. When you say print, what does it mean to you? Do you mean print to any printer, print to your primary printer, print to a PDF? And in software development, we try to teach our developers, break that down into a very specific definition of done. How will I know this task is done? When I push that button, it will print to my local printer that's connected to my computer on a piece of paper. Okay, I got it. That makes sense, and so that definition of done clarifies the task for the developer. If I want it to be printing to a PDF, that's actually a whole nother task, right? And the developer can do all of them, but you break them into separate tasks. When you have action items that come out of meetings, or when you have data calls like I just described a minute ago, make sure you don't just say, hey, I need a past performance write-up, and then that's it. Give them, talk to them. So here I'm talking about initial steps. Explain to them that you're going to give them a definition of done, meaning this is exactly what I'm looking for. And so when I give you a data call, please don't assume you know what I'm talking about. Take 2 seconds and just read the definition of done for the data call. And it helps me clarify it to you. It helps you be able to look at it and let me know if there's any mistakes, or not mistakes, but misunderstandings. And then for you to deliver on that data call. So that one's a really important one, is teaching them that definition of done. The next one is create collaboration tools. So as you start and get running here, create collaboration tools like SharePoint or Google Drive, Jira, any tool that you want, but somewhere where you and your teaming partner, your sub, can come together. And when you do this, you're driving them to a disciplined, focused process for trading information back and forth. I talked about meeting minutes, et cetera. The idea nowadays is you want to get out of email as much as possible and put things in a central repository. By doing that, you're adding a level of discipline to the way they do their job in support of you. The other thing that's really valuable of having a central tool like that is that when somebody else on their side or your side come in, they can look to the central tool and see basically what's going on. They don't have to say, hey, do you have that email where that person sent me that thing? Right? A little too hard there. But when you have a collaboration tool, it works. The last tip, number 5, for initial steps you can do to establish control of a subcontractor. And this kind of goes along at the point when you're having a conversation and you know where you both might fit, is clarify the work share percentage, and the task areas. One of the risks of a team that come up is misunderstanding. I talked about this in the beginning, right, of poor communication. A misunderstanding of what work the sub will get from the prime if the contract's awarded to them. So you just want to clarify, look, right now I'm talking about 15, maybe 20%. And then writing that down. I've established that. The other is, this is the area I expect you to play in. Task area number 6, it's about migration from SharePoint 2013 to SharePoint Online. That's the area, not any of the software development stuff. That's me, or that's the other team. And so that area is where I expect you to really contribute the most to capture and proposal writing. And so when you clarify that with them in writing, you'll have started off this process of getting a lot of control around the relationship. It's not just about controlling them. I'm going back and forth between the word control and guiding, really facilitating the relationship in there to make sure it's a win for them and for you. Okay, so coming down to the end here with top 5 ongoing steps. So these are things you can do throughout the relationship as you move forward. And actually, one of the things that you can do ongoing as you go forward to maintain control over the relationship is provide transparent communication. I say that if you can't trust the other party, then why are you even working with them? There's a lot of companies who think it's okay to be teaming with somebody, not a vendor where they look, I'm just buying something from you. That's it. This whole theme of this week in today's training is about teaming. That's a relationship we're building. In fact, generally it's with a strategic partner. So if I can't trust you enough to be transparent about the opportunity, then why am I even working with you? So keep that in mind. If you can't trust them, just get rid of them and get a new partner. Or go to therapy and find out why you can't trust people. But when I talk about being transparent with your communication, I mean transparent about the opportunity. If you're the prime and you're talking to the contracting officer or the program office, et cetera, when you come back every 2 weeks and you're meeting with them, say, hey, this is what I learned. I talked to this person here. This is what they were saying. Share names. There's nothing wrong with sharing names. Oh, the contracting officer's name is this. The program office person I'm meeting is this. If you find yourself trying to control the information you have and not letting other people see it, in particular your teaming partners, then you're not actually working with them. And so it negatively impacts the control. They begin to feel like less than, and they go off and start doing their own thing. But if they truly feel like part of your team, that they're so valued that you share everything with them, except for pricing maybe, but pretty much everything else, then they will feel more invested in that. Now you're controlling that sub and keeping them in this relationship, working hard to bring home the win. Next step on ongoing: never ever cancel a meeting. You're going to schedule regular meetings every 2 weeks. Never cancel a meeting. First, you want to lead by example. So you don't want to let a sub think it's okay to cancel meetings, because they'll cancel meetings. If you're going to cancel meetings, then you're not serious, you or them, right? You're not serious about the meeting. Now, sometimes we have personal issues that pop up, not business issues. I have no, if you schedule a recurring meeting and you have another business thing that goes on top of that, that's mismanagement, right? And so don't do that. But if you have a personal thing, family, dentist, whatever, even the dentist, schedule that off time. But if you have an emergency that pops up and you have to skip the meeting, have an alternate. Have your proposal manager in there if you're not the proposal manager in your capture or something. Have your boss, have a colleague in there. Have somebody in your mind that you can say, hey, Joe, can you cover this? Hey, Jane, can you cover my meeting? Here's what we were going to talk about. Here's the other ones. Theoretically, if they're on the same overall capture team, then they're going to know generally what you're talking about. There's people on your team you can delegate the meeting to, and you're just touching base, saying, here's what I was going to share with the teaming partners or the teaming partner. Here's what I want to ask them. They had a data call due, check in with them on that. This moves into the next one, which is also leading by example, is complete your own action items quickly and completely. So if you're in a meeting and you and the sub are talking to each other, you're talking about the opportunity and what needs to get done, and out of the meeting comes several action items, some for them, some for you. One of the ways you can control your subcontractors is by actually leading by example. Complete your action item as fast as you can and as completely as needed for what we're looking at. So don't just do a half-baked job and have an action item, oh, it's done. I mean, really get it done completely, but get it done as quickly as possible. Today, tomorrow. Don't put off to several days out or the day before your next meeting to try to get an action item done, right? Get it done. Communicate back to them through that collaboration portal or an email or whatever, saying, hey, that action item's taken care of. You can see the information up here or something. By doing that, you're kind of controlling how fast and at what quality level they're doing their job without telling them they have to do that. By leading by example, you're saying, this is what I expect as a prime from myself, and it's what I expect from you. The next one is, so data calls. I explained what data calls are. Even action items, put this in this category. Make them 2 to 4 hour tasks. This is something you can do to control your sub in particular. Sometimes we primes send too big of a data call, too vague of a data call to the subs, and we never get back what we want. So take a minute and figure out, even with the sub, figure out how to clarify the data call and clarify the action item. So it really should only take 2 to 4 hours to get done. If it takes more than 2 to 4 hours, then just break it up into several different data calls. So if I want you to write a page, let's say it takes a long time, right? Well, hey, the first data call is create an outline. Second data call is figure out what you don't know and you need to research before you start writing. That's another data call. And then the third one could be write a draft. Fourth one is write a final. Something like that. Sometimes we put it all together, and in particular, that research could fill up a long time. But when you make it 2 to 4 hours, the idea behind this is that theoretically they could get it done in a single day. When they can get to it is a separate question. But when they do get to it, in their mind, they can go, oh, I can get this done in a 4 hour block. I got a 4 hour block tomorrow. Let me get that data call done, right? So keep them small. The last tip for ongoing steps is set due dates and hold to them. Due dates for yourself and due dates for your sub. It's really important that you set the expectation of, when do I need a data call back? When do I need us to be talking to the program office and getting this piece of information? Don't let it be vague, because it will take as long as the time you give it. So if I need it in 3 days, I will generally get it in 3 days. If I need it as soon as you can, then I will get it as soon as they get to it. After everything else in the whole world gets done, then I will get it, right? But when you put a due date down, now they call that a SMART goal or SMART task, right? It's time blocked. It's got a timestamp on it for when it's due. And that's really a good way to control the other people. You're not doing it in any kind of bad way or disrespectful to your sub. What you're saying is, I need this, I need it in 3 days. And before you walk away, you say, is the task clear? And is the time due date, is that doable for you? Do we need to reset expectations? If I have a very close time thing, I can say, I don't have time to wait, get somebody else to help you. Or if I've got flexibility and they say, well, can I get it to you Monday instead of Friday? Sure. Actually, I'm probably not even going to look at it till Monday. So clarify with them that the due date is there, but then stick to it, right? And that's just basic time management. So, anyways, we moved through this pretty fast, and in this training, we talked about controlling the sub. And if you do this, I really believe that you'll both have less problems. Both companies win-win, right? Less problems, and you'll see more wins. And I'm assuming that sounds good, right? So, if this stuff makes sense that I shared with you today, the 15 tips, go ahead and hit that like button right now. If you would like a handout of the steps I just shared, so you put up on your wall and follow those steps as you're managing your subcontractor relationships, put CTS handout, please, in the chat, and we'll get that to you. CTS will tell me it's control the sub, right? Control the CTS handout, and then please, we'll just tell everybody else this is a super polite community that they can come into. So while you're doing that, I do want to make sure that you know that there's 2 more trainings that go into this overall week of teaming training, and I want to make sure you sign up for the next 2 ones. Tomorrow is how to manage your time working with multiple strategic partners, right? I'm telling you, have 8 strategic partners and spend every 2 weeks meeting with them. Well, how do you do that without feeling overwhelmed? I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. It's a really tactical type training tomorrow. And then Friday wraps it all together with how do you pick the best strategic teaming partners. It's one thing for me to tell you, go get teaming partners with a woman-owned firm or a large, but how do you know of those 10 or 20 largest, which ones are actually the best ones for you? That's what I want to teach you on Friday. So it looks like I'm doing good on time. You're welcome to everybody that says thanks. I really appreciate that. By the way, I don't see the chat during, but I look at everything afterwards. I answer any comments that are in there. And I very much appreciate seeing the thank yous. So you're welcome. And thank you for joining me today. Remember, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you at the next event.